So this first video is from May 2020, so about 3 years ago. What I started doing, and I'll just play that video right now, is I started to jump into D-hold, basically. So you'll see I'm grabbing onto the pole as high as I can, and then I'm pushing out with that bottom arm and extending out. I got that twisted grip at the top. Actually, I didn't even extend out. I just started sliding down the pole. This pole too, if you did watch that inversion video, is that 50 millimeter pole that is very hard to grip. To this day, I cannot deadlift on this pole. So if you have a thick pole, that might be something to consider. So this looks like it was a pretty long training day for me. I'm wearing the same clothes. I did get a little bit of an extension. You can see that I'm trying to get a D-hold. So D-hold is basically when you're trying to hold that twisted grip and then the pistol with that bottom hand. You're essentially trying to form that Aisha, which some of you might be trying out if you are a little bit newer to pole, which I would say the Aisha is a little bit more of a intermediate movement because it does involve a lot of balance, of course strength there too. But what I was trying to do is trying to get that D-hold, so wrapping the pole with my ankles to give me that extra balance that I didn't have at that point. And then trying to obviously let go of the pole with my ankles and just hold into that standard Aisha. So this next video on the May 18th. So almost a month later, I was able to actually hold that Aisha for maybe a couple of seconds with this fancy editing, of course. Let's see, and in August, I was jumping into it. So that video right there was actually kind of a big change for me. I was just jumping into my invert. At this point, I actually didn't even have my invert. I don't think. I'd have to remember the date. But looking at this, I don't think I had my invert at that point. Just looking at how I'm jumping onto the pole and trying to hook that one leg behind the pole initially before getting into that D-hold. But I remember this day pretty specifically. That was the first day I tried jumping into it. But prior to this, I was doing a lot of that D-hold, so I did have a good amount of experience trying to get that coordination on the balance side. So I was really excited that day when I got that. Oh, moving forward, so October, I was able to actually hold a full Aisha. It was a struggle for sure, but I was there, I was holding it. And moving on from that, November, I incorporated a lot of Aisha into spinning pole. This movement right here took me forever to get. I remember I was trying so hard to keep my legs in line. I would say once you get your Aisha on static, I would move to spin because spin was just a whole nother animal. I remember trying to get into that shape from different positions. That video particularly was from, I think, a layback. So twisting your legs around and making sure that both of your arms are steady. And I always tried my Aisha in a twisted grip and a pistol grip. It's just what I feel confident in. I remember I really tried to buckle down on getting my deadlift, and at this point I was feeling pretty confident around late 2020 getting that Aisha and holding it. And I thought, okay, well, the next step is obviously just deadlifting into it. What I did is I put this like horrible time constraint on when I was gonna get my deadlift. I put it as like a 30-day challenge. Maybe you've seen those 30-day challenges on YouTube for like getting your splits or push-ups or whatever. I don't know. I did that with the deadlift. It was mentally very degrading because it's such a hard movement and I wasn't getting it. I was like, why am I not getting this? I'm just not good enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not this and that. I just finished like an hour of practice. It was not a successful session. I just couldn't progress at all today. Everything was kind of hurting. It's just so frustrating and I feel a lot less motivated. I would be out in my greenhouse training room and I would be going through conditioning movements, and that's not a bad idea. That's actually really good. You can see that I do use banded exercises to condition, which I think is great. The issue that I ran into is injury. I had an intercostal injury at the time that I was going through this. And I don't know exactly what led on to that, but I think it was too much in too little of a time. And if there's one takeaway I think I want to pass on to people watching this video who want their deadlift or the Aisha, it's really horrible to hear this, but you have to give it time. If you're impatient like me, you have to give it time. You have to let your coordination settle in with the strength that your body can actually output. So about a year later, August, I did get into a lot better of a kind of a hybrid, I would say, between the Aisha and a deadlift. So it wasn't me totally lifting off the ground without having anything below my feet. I was using a little bit of a jump, so using a bit of momentum, but also incorporating that coordination, building up the strength, and focusing on form, not just wildly jumping into something. So yeah, it took me about a year to get this shape that I'm holding here. Yeah, and I'm very comfortable with the balance aspect of that. So a month later, it looks like there would be days. Okay, so this does look like a pretty big shift, right? So I was like, oh, I was still jumping off the ground. So it looks like a big shift. There would be spurts, right? There would be times where I'd have days where I would just be like, damn, I'm on fire on the pole. Like, I can deadlift. I wasn't able to do it a week ago, but here I am deadlifting midair. So I am actually using momentum on this movement. Okay, so you can see I'm kind of flipping my legs back. And this is a little bit of not a little bit, this is a dangerous movement because you are putting a lot of strain on your joints, tendons, ligaments, all of that. And if you're not prepared for that, this could really, really mess you up. Okay, so this was a really, really good day for me. So this was one of those like, okay, this is great. I was getting my spinning deadlift. I got my spinning deadlift before I got my static deadlift. I don't know if that's normal. There could be some kind of momentum that I was bundling with the spinning that I was doing on the pole. I was doing a fair amount of band conditioning with spin pole, trying to do the deadlift. So that probably built up a fair amount of coordination for me. So I got really, really in tune with which muscles were firing. So this was a really great day for me. I remember being very excited holding that position right there. Good stuff. Little airwalk too. Airwalks are really good, by the way. Airwalks are great conditioning for those push and pull muscles on the twisted and the pistol grip. I'm gonna note there on that dismount was a bit rough. You're not gonna have the most strength in the world, again, when you're first starting on like a graceful dismount where you're not plopping on the ground. That is something to be aware of though, because keep in mind that you've got if you're like me and you like that twisted grip, which most people do, you're putting a lot of strain on that top wrist. It's still connected and wrapped around the pole like this, and then you smash down on the ground. Your wrist is taking all of that force because it's not just completely letting go at that point. And that's what I'm talking about. So there were just days like that where I would not do very well at all. Again, here's another day. And these are, I'm not going back in time. This is later on. You can see I'm really disappointed with that. So I really got into conditioning, I remember at that point, because I was like, okay, I'm getting good days, I'm getting bad days, and my body's not feeling too hot. So went more intense on conditioning. So here we are with those bands, trying to get in tune with what deadlifting should feel like. So January of 2022. So this is that same movement that I was showing you, what is that, like half a year ago? And I'm still working on it. Okay, so this is also January 2022. That was an exciting day. I was able to get really comfortable with that spinning in deadlift, sorry. Okay, so May May 2022, another good day. I was going through something personally in my life. I did actually lose about 20 pounds at this time. I was pole dancing a lot. I was conditioning a lot. I was really, really focused on my diet at this point, and I was feeling really good in my body. And I remember this day, we'll just play it, knocking out an aerial spinning deadlift. You can see I'm using a little bit of momentum there, kind of kicking my legs back. But this was really exciting stuff. Like, this was a big, big win for me. This is what I wanted when I started in 2020, right? And then I got fancier with it. July, this is actually a different grip, so that's not the twisted grip. This is static as well. Getting more and more comfortable. This is also static. Phoenix entrance, loved this one, so much fun. August 2022, reverse spinning deadlift, another really exciting day. So this is exactly what I wanted, what was it, 2 years ago, and then the same month, static deadlift. I know that this wasn't exactly a tutorial on how to deadlift, more just my experience doing it. I remember trying to look up on YouTube how to deadlift and trying to crack a secret code to it. And really for me, it was just band training and giving it a lot of time. You can see here it took me 2 years to get it. Like the last video for inverting, it seemed like a lot of you found that useful, just kind of relating to somebody else's experience. So this was mine. Let me know if you're working on your deadlift or your Aisha. That's this video, and again, comment if you want to see more, and I'll see you on the next one.